What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be discussing the best Nike training shoes in 2024. So I have 6 models up here that are pretty popular in 2024, and I want to go over which you should use for what type of activity. So if you are an athlete and a lifter and you're looking into Nike shoes exclusively, hopefully this video can help direct you towards the best pair for your needs. But that said, let's dive into our first shoe. The first shoe is the Nike Metcon 9. Now, who is this shoe going to be best for? So if you need a Nike training shoe for lifting, CrossFit, or cross training, the Nike Metcon 9 will be your best bet. This model is going to be the most stable of all of the cross training shoes that Nike offers, or more Nike gym shoes that they offer at the moment. So with this model, the reason it's the most stable is with its midsole and its heel construction. So with this model, you have a TPU plate back here in the heel, helps give you additional stability, and then you also have this dual density foam midsole that runs throughout the entirety of the shoe. It is a bit more stable and less compressive than the other models I'm going to discuss in this video. Now, with the Nike Metcon 9, 3 reasons why I like them is number 1, once again, their stability. If you need a Nike training shoe for heavy weight training, whether it's with free weights or on machines, this is going to be your best bet. The second reason why I like this shoe is if you do CrossFit, or if you just want a shoe that has a bit more abrasion resistance with its upper construction, this can be a great option to look into. You have this lateral and medial sidewall here to help give you additional protection from rope climbs, and then you also have this haptic overlay covering the medial forefoot to help give you additional abrasion resistance if you're doing any form of toe dragging movement. The third reason why I like the Nike Metcon 9 is its toe box. This model has a wider toe box compared to the other Nike training shoes I'm going to discuss in this video as well. So if you do need a Nike training shoe that has good stability, but then also a decent amount of width in the forefoot, the Nike Metcon 9 will be your best bet. All right, so now let's talk about a couple of cons and who might want to pass on this shoe. So first off, because we have a TPU plate back here in the heel, it is not going to be your best training shoe from Nike for running, hybrid workouts, and classes. If you need a shoe for that style of training, the next models will be a better pick for you. The second issue that I have with this shoe is with the split outsole construction here, I almost find that the medial side of the shoe can sometimes cave in. So if you're somebody that does like a little bit more of a medial sidewall support with your training when doing single leg work, that might be something to consider with this shoe. It's something that I picked up on. It might not affect everybody, but definitely some food for thought there regarding the shoe's construction. So all that said, if you're looking at Nike gym shoes and your main asks are for stability, abrasion resistance, and a shoe that's decent for CrossFit and cross training, the Nike Metcon 9 will be your best bet. The next shoe I want to cover is the Nike Free Metcon 5. So this is arguably what I would say is probably the most popular training shoe from Nike at the moment. So with this model, I often language it as like a jack of all trades style training shoe, as in it's going to be best for anybody who's not super specific with their training and they want a training shoe for just a little bit of everything. So for example, doing some strength workouts, doing HIIT workouts, doing classes, and then even going on short runs or daily walks. So with this shoe, there are 3 reasons why I like this model. Number 1, I like the Nike Free midsole in this shoe. The forefoot and midfoot are very pliable and very flexible, so if you're constantly on the forefoot for your workouts, this shoe should do a pretty good job at giving you a nice level of flexibility and responsiveness. The second reason why I like this shoe is you can do different types of training in them. So there's a lot of range that you get with this shoe. So for example, if I'm doing a strength workout that's capped at like 275 pounds or 315 pounds, this model will give you enough stability at those thresholds. I would not go much heavier than that in the shoe because you will start to have some compression, but if your thresholds are at like 315 and below, you should be plenty fine with this shoe. And it's also pretty responsive, so you can do short runs in them, you can wear them to classes, and they work pretty well. This is one of my favorite shoes, for example, for doing full body conditioning circuits. The third reason why I like this shoe is its upper construction and how it fits. So with this model, you have a booty style construction with this like pseudo tongue here, and I find that it hugs the foot really well, and you get a good level of security with the shoe when doing different types of workouts. And now 2 things to consider with this shoe is number 1, the heel can feel a little bit clunky. So if you do need that training shoe that works for classes and HIIT workouts, but you can run a little bit more in, this might not be your best bet. My running threshold in this shoe is right around like 2 to 3 miles, and then I'll opt for something else if I'm doing workouts that either have intervals that hit a higher volume or doing longer runs in general pre or post workout. The second reason why you might want to pass on this shoe is with its midsole construction here, we do have exposed foam on the lateral and medial sides and some breaks in the forefoot. If you're doing a lot of workouts outdoors and you're doing a lot of like cutting and multi-directional movements, this can break down pretty quick. So definitely keep an eye on that if you invest in the Free Metcon 5. Overall though, this is a pretty safe bet for somebody who wants a shoe for doing a little bit of everything. The next model is the Nike Air Zoom TR1. So this shoe is interesting, and I almost feel like It doesn't exactly know which direction it's heading in for Nike training shoes. Like, it's kind of this in-betweener model, but I do think this model will excel for a very specific population, and that is for the population that wants a shoe specifically for classes and HIIT workouts. So 3 reasons why I like the Air Zoom TR1 is, number 1, with this shoe, you get the full Air Zoom packet throughout the entirety of this shoe's sole. So this model does have a nice bounce to it. And so if you are doing workouts that have a lot of jumping, a lot of bounding, this shoe can feel really good because it's highly responsive. The second reason why I like this shoe is if you do plan to do more outdoor workouts that are more of like your class or HIIT style fashion, this shoe can be a good pick with its full rubber outsole. I think this model will be a little bit better regarding long-term durability compared to the Free Metcon 5 in the context of outdoor workouts that are going to be more cross-training focused. The third reason why I like this shoe is if you are that person that wants a shoe that you can also do some short runs in, this can be a decent option. This model is honestly not that bad for running in my opinion. So if you like doing a couple of miles pre or post workout, I think this shoe is a little bit more runnable compared to the Free Metcon 5 and definitely more runnable than the Nike Metcon 9 and its clunky TPU heel. Now, who should pass on this shoe? Number 1, if you need that Nike training shoe that has a heavy bias towards strength work, this model will have some thresholds to keep in mind. So with this shoe, for example, I don't love using them for weights over like 315 pounds. Have I deadlifted and lifted more in this model? Yes, but the problem is that I start to feel that Air Zoom packet in this shoe, and I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of that. Can you use them for heavier weights? Sure. Is it going to be the most optimal? That's up for debate. The second reason why I'd say pass on this shoe is if you need a model with more width, this might not be your best bet. This model's toe box is a little bit more tapered compared to the Free Metcon 5 and the Nike Metcon 9. So if you do need a shoe for more strength work, go Metcon 9 over the Air Zoom TR1. And if you do need that shoe for a little bit of everything in HIIT workouts, and you're not necessarily sure if you should go with the Air Zoom TR1 or Nike Free Metcon 5, I think the Free Metcon 5 has a slightly more spacious toe box, and it should work pretty well in that context. But overall, I think the Nike Air Zoom TR1 is an interesting shoe. It's just very specific, and it's not going to be a shoe for everybody in the context of Nike gym shoes. The next model I want to discuss is the Nike MC Trainer 2. So this is going to be your best pick if you're on a budget and you need a shoe that has a little bit more stability to it. So compared to like the Legend Essential 3, this model's midsole is a bit more dense, so you can lift in them a little bit easier if you are trying to spend well under $100 for your pair of training shoes. Now, 3 reasons why I like the MC Trainer 2 is, number 1, obviously the price point. This shoe has a good budget-friendly price point, and you can often find colorways on sale, so you can find this shoe for far less than $100 if you're capped on your budget. The second reason why I like this shoe is if you do need a decently stable shoe for lifting that doesn't cost a ton, the midsole in this model does a pretty good job at not compressing super easy under heavier weights. Is this going to necessarily be your best shoe for example, deadlifting 500 pounds? No, but if you are that recreational lifter that wants a shoe that can hold its own for like 315, 405 pounds, this model can work pretty well. The third reason why I like this shoe is if you have a narrower foot, this model will resonate with you. So this model's width is one of its drawbacks, and I'll talk about that in a second, but for narrow-footed individuals, this shoe generally feels really good for your foot anatomy. Now, who should pass on this shoe? Number 1, I think if you need a shoe with, once again, more width, this is a very narrow-fitting model. It is not going to be your best bet. You also have a pretty low-profile upper volume, so for wide and thicker feet or higher insteps, this shoe can often feel pretty dang limiting. And the second reason why I don't love this shoe is with its blockier heel construction and stiffer forefoot, it can feel a little bit tough to break in at times, and because the tongue is engusseted, the tongue security of the shoe isn't the best as well. So it's kind of like a 2.5 con or 2.5 reason why I don't necessarily love this shoe. Pro tip, if you do want a shoe that is going to be able to walk all these different fine lines, I would say look into older models like the Nike Free Metcon 4, even the Nike Metcon 8 over the Nike MC Trainer 2 if you can, because oftentimes those older models, they'll be stronger performers and they'll have price points similar to the MC Trainer 2. So that said, if you're on a budget, I would say look into those older models first and then come back to the MC Trainer 2 if it's like a last resort option. The final model I want to discuss is the Nike Romaleos 4. So this is a weightlifting shoe. This is not going to be a shoe that you're going to want to use for cross training, CrossFit workouts, or workouts that are going to be a lot more versatile. So with this model, it's going to be best for folks who need a shoe specifically for squats, the sport of weightlifting, so the snatch and clean and jerk, or other forms of training where you want to drive a quad bias or you want to heel elevation with your lifting. This is not going to be, once again, that shoe to wear for everything. So if you are a beginner, I have a weightlifting shoe guide where I discuss the context where weightlifting shoes make sense. I'm going to link that up there. But 3 reasons why I like the Nike Romaleos 4 is, number 1, If you need a shoe with max stability for squats and weightlifting, this can be a really good pick. You have a TPU midsole throughout, so this model is not gonna have compression whatsoever, no matter how heavy you load them. The second reason why I like this shoe is if you need additional foot security and you like having that foot locked down when you're squatting and weightlifting, this can be a good option to go for. You have a low profile upper, the upper is pretty rigid, and you have these dual straps here to help lock that foot down. It's not as good as some of the models like the Nike Romaleos 2, but it does a pretty good job with overall security if that's something you're after. The third reason why I like the Romaleos 4 is if you are looking for a weightlifting shoe that does have a narrower fit and a more aggressive toe box, this can be a really good shoe to fill that void. With the Nike Rom 4, one of the main complaints is that it doesn't fit super wide. However, if you have narrow feet, that can actually be a good thing, or if you're just somebody that likes that slightly more narrow toe box, because I do have some friends who prefer that fit with their weightlifting shoes. So a little food for thought there based on your foot anatomy if this shoe is gonna work for you. Now, two contexts where I'd pass on this shoe. Number one, if you have a wider foot, obviously don't go with this model. You are going to feel wicked cramped in the toe box. It is not the best pick. Go for a tier L1 lifter. Go for an Innovate Fast Lift Power G380. Those shoes will all fit a little bit wider than this shoe. And then the second context is if you want to save a little bit of money, and let's say you're a beginner to weightlifting shoes, but you do want a pair of weightlifting shoes to start implementing into your rotation, you can look in the Romaleos, you can look into models like the Powerlift 5 from Adidas, or you can look into models like the Noble Canvas Lifter that all have more budget-friendly price points compared to the Rom 4. Overall, though, the Rom 4 can be a great option for narrow-footed individuals who want a very stable weightlifting shoe.